You're with NewsMakers. On the panel, David Lynch, Jamie Gough and Professor Jim Tully. Well, Councillor Sue Wells has lashed out at her council colleagues who accepted an invitation from the Metropolitan Trotting Club for a meal and drinks at Addington on Waitangi Day. The club, of course, is currently seeking a venue licence for gaming machines, and to get that, they do need to get an exemption from the council with respect to their gaming policy. Was it naive? Was it inappropriate for councillors to accept this invite? David?
Well, with the limited information I have, Mike, I guess I would support Chrissy Williams and not have attended. Having said that, though, the councillors were given clearance from the legals at council, who said, as I understand it, was appropriate and lawful behaviour. From that perspective, I think that they obviously went in there and believed it was correct. It doesn't look good in the public domain. There'll be those that say that it doesn't and those that say that it does. I mean, lobbying is common in local government. I do it, and there's appropriate standards and ethical standards that you must follow. At the end of the day, it's happened. I do question why it's come out now, though.
I was intrigued that Councillor David Cox had the honesty to say it would take more than a dinner to sway me at Addington.
Absolutely.
Do you think it's a good look, Jim?
No, I don't really. I mean, I think lobbying is part of life, that's right, but there are contexts in which I think it's held in a proper kind of way, and the moment, there's no such thing as a free meal, so the moment you accept some kind of wining and dining or whatever, there's a perception. Now, the reality might be that legally it was okay and, you know, it was lawful, all these kind of things, but the fact is it doesn't look good, and perception is almost often as damaging as the reality, I think.
What about Councillor Sue Wells? Was she headline grabbing here? Why come out now? You know, it's now June. This happened in February.
Yeah, and certainly with Sue, who I've had a bit to do with over the years, especially with my time as an elected member, it surprises me that she'd take that stance, really. All I can say with this is, welcome to the real world. You know, I've just am going through the process of being appointed to a board of directors. There's going to be a whole lot of people which I don't know that will want to take me out to certain things, and that's just a part of life. It goes with the territory. In life outside of council and community board, I'm directly involved with a relatively substantial property holdings company. In fact, next week we're being taken out to lunch by a real estate company. They're not taking me out to lunch because they think I'm just such a neat guy.
To curry favour with you, Jamie.
Well, I think we all know that, and you're absolutely mad if you think otherwise. But you can never turn down the opportunity to build a relationship, to get a bit more understanding about something, and you'd have to have rocks in your head if you think that all of a sudden going along having something like this will sway who you're going to back or give your support to. I think build your knowledge wherever you can. Absolutely never turn down the opportunity to build a relationship. If they give you a 40 grand Rolex or something like that, I would suggest you probably give it back. But to go out and just learn a bit more about them is I would actually have no problem with in the slightest. And at the end of the day, the decision you'd be making, whether it be in business, in local government, it simply comes down to what makes fiscal sense and what is the right decision.
All right.
I think, to be fair to Sue, as I understand from my contacts at the press, in fact, the press may have chased the story on this occasion. It gave her a headline, and a front page headline is always very good in the lead up to an election, but I think, as I understand, it was the press on this occasion that pursued it.
Okay. Also on the local front, thousands of people flocked to the square last Sunday in what was one of the biggest protests Christchurch has seen for years. We're not really into mass protests in our town, but we certainly were last weekend, the Our Water, Our Vote rally. What do you make of this surging undercurrent of public alarm? Jamie?
I think what is really obvious is the fact that water quality is something that is a really hot topic. I think I personally believe that the quality of water in Canterbury, it's our gold, it's our oil, and I'm really, really pleased to see that there's a heck of a lot of other people there that feel so strongly about it.
Where's this issue headed, Jim? It's sort of like in need of a destination. Do you think it could be the City Council that's going to clobber it?
Well, given what's happened to ECAN, highly likely, I suppose. I mean, I think it's going to be a major election issue, both nationally and locally, because I think people care really deeply about water. They're concerned, obviously, about the way in which water is being used in other contexts. So the turnout was large. What shocked me, I guess, was that you don't really expect people to be overtly politically engaged these days. It's not like the 60s and 70s. I mean, it's a different kind of world. So the fact that 2,000 to 3,000 or so went out there, I thought was pleasantly surprising and a good sign that people care a lot about this issue. And as Jamie says, it is our gold, but it's also a resource that has to be absolutely treasured. And people are, I think, expressing that. And they're concerned about democracy too, for some.
Yeah. David?
Well, I mean, I think there was some comment in the media that it was rent a crowd. Look, it was certainly not rent a crowd. We've been involved in advising Melbourne Hills. Rosalie Snoink, she was there. Fish and Game were there. Forest and Bird. There was a whole bunch of people, Robin Judkins. And as I said to Nick Smith last week, a number of the other protests around the change of the ECAN, there were national people protesting and have been protesting, and I think the government needs to have a good reflection on what it's done with ECAN. Certainly there was a need for change, but the way they went about it, that's clearly why people were protesting, and also the issue of water.
There does seem to be some degrees of concern in the debate. I mean, for example, Dean Peter Beck, I was quite surprised how hardline he has become on this. He was essentially saying the sustainable use of water and dairying are poles apart from one another. In other words, we can't continue dairying if we believe in the sustainable use of water. I mean, that's pretty hard line, isn't it?
I think it's unusual to have the Dean come out like that, and I think, you know, there's something very spiritual about the whole experience last Sunday, and, you know, the young folks and the young children carrying the stone across the square to the cairn, I think it's described as, and you know, his attendance and what he said. I think the government needs to sit up and take note of what's happened, and clearly the group involved, the campaign, Our Water, Our Vote, they're not going to go away, and they've indicated they're going to make it an election issue around the local government and central government.
All right, just a quick comment on the National Māori Party deal on the foreshore and the seabed. Has this weeping sore, as John Key has called it, has it been sensibly addressed, and is the proposed law change a well-weighted outcome? Jim?
I'm struggling with many people to understand just exactly what's different and you know, what the significant change has been. I mean, politically it's a good outcome for National and the Māori Party, I guess. But in the end, I think the next few months will really be the test in terms of how people choose to apply it and how iwi choose to try and take action over customary rights. And then I think the rubber will hit the road. At the moment, it's just a political outcome which makes sense, I guess, to some people, but I think a lot of people aren't really sure what it all means yet.
Are you sure you know what it means, Dave?
Well, no, I think it's one of those examples of, I think that, you know, it's about the devil maybe in the detail here, but I think it appears to be on the surface an improvement in the status quo, and I guess only time will tell.
Yeah. Jamie?
I have no idea what the difference is. It seems like one of those things that says, we're not going to have Crown ownership, and they say, absolutely right, let's have public domain, and they say, brilliant deal. And it's really, I remember my first job when I was 14 years old, washing dishes out at a pub in Sumner, and the chef called me the executive utensil technician. And we all knew exactly what it meant. But the difference between Crown ownership or public domain, whatever you want to call it, it's more or less the same thing. And on a day-to-day basis of how it will affect everyday New Zealanders, I don't think it will make much of a deal. Customary right, that'll be something that will be debated heavily. I hope the government takes a strong stance on that. But really, they seem much the same to me.
All right, we'll take a break. Coming up, we'll have a look at the college school rugby game, which is on the calendar for next week, and of course the beautiful game everywhere around the world. Do stay with us.